In this AP Calc example, we're being given a derivative here to start with. dy dt equals this negative 5e to the negative t over 2. And then they're giving us a point not on the derivative, but on that original function. And what they want us to do is they want us to use that information to find out the value of y of 2. So what happens when we plug 2 into the original equation. What we're looking at here is very often referred to as an initial value problem. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to undo our derivative to get back to our original equation. And then once we're back to that original equation, we'll use this initial value here to find out that plus c that we always get when we do integral problems. So what we're looking at here would be the antiderivative of negative 5e. And I rewrite this. When I see something like negative t over 2, I go ahead, the first thing I do is I always put whatever's in the power on an e inside of parentheses. But this would be negative 1/2 t. I slide that constant to the front because I'm just more used to it. Like you're used to seeing 5x's and 1/2 x's, and your brain just knows what to do a little bit easier when you write it like you're used to seeing it. So the first thing I would do is sort of rewrite that as I bring this down. Now, looking at this, what we have in front of us is what I refer to as a special case antiderivative. So there's certain antiderivatives that you just have to have memorized or you're never going to guess them. They're usually your trig functions, your e to the x's, anything like that. Anything you had to memorize the derivative of, guess what? You got to memorize the antiderivative. So here, if we're looking at the antiderivative of e to a number times x, then the antiderivative of this is 1 over whatever that number is, and then e to the ax plus c. So applying that special case over here, keep in mind that there's, an unwritten 1 in front of that e right there. That's where this 1 on top comes from. And so as we go to apply that rule, instead of being a 1 in front, we've got a negative 5. So this is going to be negative 5 over, and then this, again, this is why I rewrite this, is I can see that that's now my a value there. So this is going to be negative 5 over negative 1 over 2, and then e to the negative 1/2 t, that stays the same, plus c. Now this is what my original equation equals, my y of t equation. And what we'll do from here is we're going to end up using this initial value to find out what that plus c is going on. Before I do that, I would want to kind of clean this up to make my life a little bit easier. So really the most I can do is just sort of rewrite that. I can flip that fraction on the bottom there, so that would end up being negative 2 over 1 times negative 5, and then all this other stuff comes along for the ride, plus c, and then again, cleaning that up just a little bit more, negative 2 times negative 5 is going to give me 10e to the negative 1/2 t plus c. So now we'll use our initial condition that they gave us. They told us that y of 0 equals 10. So what that means is when I plug in the t value of 0, I need the answer to all of that math to equal 10. So we do that down here. We would say y of 0 equals 10e to the negative 1/2, and then I'm plugging 0 in for t. All of that plus c needs to equal 10. Now we just do a little bit of algebra to start cleaning this thing up. So from there we would end up getting, this would be e to the 0 power, anything to the 0 power no matter what is 1. So we'd be looking at 10 times 1, which would just be 10. So 10 plus c needs to equal 10. And then you would go ahead and just subtract the 10 over. We're trying to solve for c right now. And we would end up finding that in this situation, c is equal to 0. So you would put that together with your original antiderivative here to find out what your equation for the full equation would be with your plus c. So this would be 10e to the negative 1/2 t, and this would be, the c value we got was 0, so this would be plus 0, which plus 0 we don't really need, but that's how you would plug in for that c value if you were going to do it that way. So that's our actual equation. We'll drop off that plus 0. And using that equation, we're now going to go ahead and figure out what is y of 2. So we'll take and we're just going to plug 2 into this equation wherever we see a t. So this would be 10e to the negative 1/2 times 2. And cleaning that up, we end up with 10e negative 1/2 times 2 would get us negative 1. Sometimes that might be your answer. Sometimes you might have to rewrite that as 10 over e. That negative exponent tells us this should go down on the bottom here. But when we look up at the answers they provided on this version of the test, we would have found that our answer is option C. Thanks for watching my video. If you liked it, please click that like button and subscribe. And also share it with your friends and anyone else you know who might be crying about an upcoming AP Calc test. You can find more videos from me, more sample AP Calc questions, and my complete AP Calc study guide over at my website, apcalcprep.com. Have a great one.